Baby. Rich, my man, how you doing, brother? How you doing?
I'm good, my man. What's going on?
Everything is fine. I want to say hello to our LinkedIn family, our Facebook users, our YouTube All-Stars, Twitch, and we are now on Twitter. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Rich and Dwelyn show. We have Rich the Innovator. I am the Glue. Rich, today is August 21st, correct? But I would like to say this to everyone out there. Yesterday was the birthday of the CEO of the Kidney Trust, Mr. Anthony, the Ant Reed. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're tuning in, we want you to drop the comments and tell Mr. Reed happy birthday. And we're going to get this show started. Rich, enough about me. I haven't talked to you in a while other than offline. So how have you been?
Oh, man, it's been a crazy couple of months that's been going on with me. It's just when you start a new job and you got all kinds of things coming at you, it's just a lot going on. And on top of that, new house and the whole shot. So, working on that, working on making that happen. And so it's been a busy life.
I hear that. Well, new house. So from my understanding, when you say new home, does that mean you are now a new homeowner? If I understand it correctly.
Almost there. We're right at the finish line. We've got our new home under construction, and we're putting our deposit down, and we're gonna have hopefully keys by October is the plan. So that's nice, something to look forward to.
I hear that. So it's safe to say, Richard, everybody out there listening, Richard, they just purchased a new home. They're in California. So, Rich, I want you to drop your address so everybody can come to the house party. They can bring their gifts to you all and welcome you all. How about we do that?
Yeah, definitely, right.
Rich, and tell them to bring the part of the deposit too, right?
Right. I'll take donations. Donations at the door, right?
I hear that. Well, man, I'm still here in Phoenix, Arizona. As I always say, that it's the city 1 mile above a volcano. But I'm loving it here. I'm loving the heat. I'd rather shovel sunlight and dirt than snow. So I'm not complaining about that. As I get to my older age and et cetera, I've been here 2 years now. So shout out to Phoenix, Arizona. Rich, today we have a special guest. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this gentleman, but this gentleman, he's been a part of the Kiddie Trails, I want to say since the beginning. He actually was the very first individual that bought my book a year ago. He's the very first person. I mean, I felt like he waited till midnight and hit that send button and bow. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, here on the Rich and Dwelyn show, we welcome you back. We want to welcome Mr. Wills Porter. Wills, come on in and let's have a talk, my brother. Boom. I love that music. It gets me jumping and gets me rocking and rolling. So, Wills, how are you doing, my man?
Dude, I am doing well. Just trying to survive the summer times in Florida,
I hear that.
A little toasty out here.
I hear it. Well, I'm gonna tell you the truth, man. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. Let me tell you something. This is the only city in the United States where you can get a suntan at night. I attest to that. So, Wills, enough about me. You know me. I see that you're trying to survive in Florida, the great state of Florida, the Sunshine State as well. I live there, of course. I'm not sure if you know my co-host, Mr. Richard Cabrera. Rich and I have been connected on LinkedIn for a few years now. I consider him a friend and a mentor of mine as well. And I also shared to Rich that Will, that you were the very first person that purchased my graphic novel. I don't know about this, a patient's initial dialysis treatment, which is it's been a year now, so we're coming up on our year anniversary. So without further ado, Mr. Richard Cabrera, I'd like to introduce you to Wills Porter. Gentlemen, enough about me running my mouth. I want y'all to take it away.
Definitely glad to meet you, Wills, and I know we've never really had. Oh, there's the
Yeah,
graphic
thank you, my
novel.
man. Thank you.
I know I got my copy right here too, right
Oh
by the
yes,
desk.
there
I
you
keep it
go. That's
right
what I'm talking
here,
about. Love it.
right at my desk.
I'm loving the
Yeah,
love. I'm loving the love.
yeah. Wills, it's exciting to meet you and to really get to hear from you today. As you know, on our show, we like to get to know our people, our guests, our people that we bring on, are interesting people that have a lot to share. And so I'm kind of curious because I don't know a whole lot about you, but I know we will after this is completed here. But one of the things that I have notes on you for is that you were involved in a project for your school that really had a lot to do with a lot of different types of transplant organizations and things of that. I'm looking to hear a little bit about what that's all about. It sounds like that's going to be something that really lets us know about you and who you are and what really motivates you.
Absolutely. Great question. Again, thank you all so much for the opportunity to be here today.
No problem.
So the project you were referring to is a project I did during my graduate studies at the University of Georgia. And that project was called Operation Impact. And the idea behind it was really to develop a program that revolved around increasing awareness of kidney health, as well as doing a little bit of education on the organ donation process, as well as everything else that kind of
Mm,
is encompassed with that. I was specifically placed in an organization that really focused on developing holistic communities, but it was really around the population of low and mid income housing communities, and they actually have multiple properties in various states, including Georgia, Florida, Louisiana, and Texas. So this program that I designed and implemented was implemented at the properties in each of those respective states. So as far as the goal, like I said, was really to help increase awareness around one, kidney health, because as both of you probably know, if not, I'm pretty sure you would. I hope you would know that kidney disease is one of the really big factors that impacts the need for folks to have kidney transplants, and kidneys are a really big need as far as the national waiting list is concerned when you look at it.
right.
And so when I was looking at the numbers, I was doing my research and I noticed that that was something that really stuck out to me. Something else that stuck out to me doing my research and preparing for this project was that while I knew personally a lot about organ donation, being a recipient myself, I noticed that when I went out into other communities, when I was in my own classes sometimes, organ donation and transplantation wasn't really discussed, much less even considered as a career
Mm,
option.
wow.
I am not joking you when I tell you that when
Mm,
I was sitting in a class one time and the topic of renal social work came up, and there was a student in that class that had never heard of this
mm,
as a career path,
Mm.
much
mm,
less a need. And
wow.
so with that as the background framing, if you will, for seeing this need, I really kind of dove head in to designing this program. And really, the the success of the program that I designed and implemented really had everything to do with the quality of people that were around me who were encouraging me to develop this program. I was very blessed to have incredible support from Columbia Residential, the organization I was placed with, and they were just incredible. My internship supervisor sat me down and said, "Hey, what are you passionate about? What do you want to do with your education?" And I said, "Well, I'm passionate about organ donation. Here's a little bit why, you know, all the things that you Dwaylen know very well.
Right.
And they said, okay, so here's what we want you to do. We want you to design a program, because it sounds like that's where we're going with this. And so that's what I did. I sat down and designed a program. Our first module that we did was an organ donation 101. So really doing a deep dive into a couple questions. One, what is organ donation, if you've never heard of it before? Two, what are some maybe common myths, misconceptions about organ donation? You know, if I put that I'm a registered donor on my license, am I registered? Am I not? We discovered those questions, as well as a litany of others. The second module was about the actual organ donation process. So when an individual becomes a donor hero, right? What does that actually look like behind the scenes? You know, from the medical standpoint? Because what I found is that when, at least personally, going through my own medical experience with transplant and everything else, for me, if I know what to expect, chances are I'm going to be a whole lot more chill about it. You know,
Right.
in the same way, if someone can have the information available to them about what the process looks like, about understanding and hearing that, you know, the body is, you know, treated with the utmost care, level of care and respect, you know, hearing that, but from the people who do it for a living. That's the thing that I did, was I specifically looked for the organizations out there, the OPOs, the organ procurement organizations that procure the organs, that recover organs for transplant and research, that are involved in community education and all these other elements. And so I purposely found those organizations that served the communities that this project was being implemented in. So as I said, the first one was Organ Donation 101. The second one was about the organ donation process itself, everything from registering all the way through. The third one was about organizations that are doing work within the kidney world and outside the kidney world to help raise awareness about organ donation education, as well as the importance of kidney health. I was very blessed to have some incredible people, individuals, and organizations supporting my work. As I mentioned, I really identified the organ procurement organizations that serve each of the communities where this project was being implemented. I also had personal friends of mine who are nephrologists, at some hospitals around the country, really give me some feedback on what I was wanting to do. And one nephrologist in particular kind of joined along in this project. And finally, the last one was more of a general overview to say, hey, you know, here's what we've covered. Here's kind of what all has been going on. At this point, here is how you can get involved in this. You know? So we covered the full gauntlet of learning from what it is, learning about why there's a need, you know, for organ donation, also, you know, the importance of kidney health as far as preventative measures are concerned, right? You know, my view is why talk about something that I know a little bit about when I could just identify people who do this for a living? They have the credentials, they have the background, they know how to articulate what they need to talk about to my audience that I'm taking this to. And so overall, the program was a massive success. Was very happy with how it went, and I ultimately graduated. You know, got my master's. Woohoo! That was finished. You know, and then from that point, you know, really that entire experience really helped kind of undergird and be the foundation of what I want to do long term. You know, and that is that whether it be in my career, whether it be in the things I do on the side, I guess, Dwelyn, I know you've used the word side hustle. I'm not exactly sure what word we're supposed to use for that, but we'll figure it out. You know, so through my work, you know, whether it be directly in my career or outside of my career, ultimately what that project helped me do is to really see and discover my passion. You know, and that is taking the experience that I've gone through as an organ recipient through the pediatric transplant process as a child, merging over to adult care, because those worlds are very different, seeing how all of the pieces fit, you know, that project helped me see my passion for that. And that's ultimately what led me to you all, to you, Dwelyn, to you, Rich, to Anthony, to everyone at Kidney Trails, because I remember the moment I got off the phone, my 1 hour conversation, I put that in quotations here because that was not 1 hour. That was I was like 2.5 to 3. Like, my parents would constantly text me, "Are you still on the phone?" And I was like, "Yes, I am still on the phone."
Right.
And yeah, you laugh, but it's the truth, you know. And the reason why that conversation was so long was because talking with Anthony, I could tell that the passion that I had, right, for this work, the passion that I brought to my internship project in graduate school, and that I hoped to continue after that project was done. Anthony emulated that and then some in his own passion for what he wanted to do. He and I saw eye to eye on the fact that we've both been through similar experiences as it relates to the fact that both of us have transplants. You know, while those paths might be different, there's a common theme here and there's a common thread, and that is that we have seen the transplant experience and are currently living it.
Wow.
And I think, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I have a question on that fact.
Sure.
I know that, like, transplant for a lot of kidney patients is the ultimate goal, right?
Yes.
But we don't really see a huge percentage of patients actually reaching that goal. I mean, so you were definitely like one of the lucky few who have a transplant of some kind, correct? And I know it may not be. I believe was it a liver transplant that you had?
That is correct. Yes.
So having that transplant, I mean, what would you tell those people out there who want that transplant but just don't know how to advocate for their own situation? What would you suggest is the best steps to take in order to advocate for themselves to receive that all important transplant?
So if I'm understanding the question correctly, you're wanting to know how individuals who have not yet received a transplant but want to receive a transplant can better advocate for themselves during the process prior to and after receiving said transplant, assuming and hoping that they would get that. Am I understanding that correctly?
Correct. Yes, because I mean, I think in most situations, right, people know what they want but don't necessarily know how to get there, right? And I think that's when you talk about education, that's a big challenge for a lot of folks because they don't know where to go, or they get limited information and really don't understand how to get themselves on that path. So what would you recommend?
So actually, this question merges very nicely with a blog series that I have kind of written a little bit on my own, and that I've released in bits and parts with Kidney Trails, and is really focused on this question of, how does someone become their own best medical advocate? And what I think number one it starts with is that rule number one is that you focus on what you can control. And start with that, because in our world, we all know there are things that are going to happen that are outside of our control that doesn't matter what we do, we're not going to change it. We walk outside and it's raining. Well, guess what, buddy? It's raining. Congratulations. But just because you're going through something doesn't mean that has to define you in the moment, nor does it mean that it defines your future potential.
Just like some storms clear your path, other than being cloudy and rainy, and the sun was definitely shine sooner or later.
And so in rule number one is, you recognize your locus of control. You recognize the things within your control that you have that can help you get to that ultimate point if transplant is where you want to be. So let's say, you're talking with your dietitian and your dietitian says, hey, cut back on these foods, do this, that, or the other, or whatever it might be, do those things. do the things that you can control. If, diet, exercise, whatever it might be, again, focus on what you can control. And also, rule number 2, this kind of feeds into the second one, is, listen to the people that know your healthcare the best. Listen to your doctors, listen to your nephrologist, listen to whatever, your specialists that you go to. Listen to these people, take notes,
Right.
write these things down. Because what you can do when you go home is you can start making those small, little incremental changes. And sometimes you might think that, well, the small really isn't important. I would argue that it's in the faithfulness in doing those small changes that you're ultimately going to see the biggest improvements over time, long-term, big picture.
Wow.
So rule number 1, like I said, you focus on what you can control. Number 2, you listen to the people that know your healthcare the best, along with rule number 3, understanding how your medical situation impacts you.
Wow.
So what does this mean? Well, let's say that you're on dialysis. Well, chances are, if you're getting up, you're doing all these other things, right? It's going to impact your energy. It's going to impact your emotional well-being, potentially. It's going to impact a lot of different factors. And understanding how that impacts you is very important, because how I act as an individual, right, when I'm sick, whatever it might be, organ failure, flu, coronavirus, whatever, how I act is going to directly impact the tone that is set throughout my household or throughout wherever I am, inside my house and outside.
Right.
So am I someone who, despite my circumstances, is still someone who people want to be around, or am I sitting back and letting the negativity just flood in, right? And so recognizing how your medical situation impacts you not only goes for the physical, but also the psychological. And I know Anthony and Dwelyn, I think you've talked about this as well, is that when it comes to dialysis, and I would argue any medical condition, there is a very large element of stuff that we don't often talk about, and that is the psychological impact.
Yes, that's right.
What's the psychological impact on that? I leave that for, medical physicians and people who are more qualified to talk about it. What I can say is that through my own experiences of what I have seen, that really focusing on that impact and how my medical situation impacts me is so key. So that's rule number 1, rule number 2, rule number 3, and finally the last one. Choose who you listen to very carefully. What do I mean? What do I mean by this? 1, I mean, listen, your external sources. Are you listening to, we can take this as elementary as, the music you listen to, right? Or the voices you listen to. Are they voices that bring you down, that tear you down? Or are they voices of truth in your life? Do they encourage you to persevere and to have fortitude through difficult circumstances? Does the music you listen to encourage you? And it doesn't even have to have words. You can listen to instrumental music, whatever it is. Does it put you in a position to best navigate your situation? So you're listening to that. But also, are you listening to people whose opinions matter? And what I mean by that is that there's some people out there, people say the internet is the best and worst thing, right? You have voices that are right, but you also have a lot of other stuff that goes along with it. Well, if I was in your situation, I would do A, B, and C. Now, if you're asking for that, then by all means, listen to that. But if you're not listening to it, and I would argue you, quite frankly, don't need that if that's not what you're looking for. Because in my experiences, I've had a lot of situations where I've been going through something medically with my post-transplant, that people who have no idea what I've been through or know anything about my story will say, "Oh, well, why don't you just do blah, blah, blah?" I'm like, well, I can't do that as a transplant patient. It's kind of hard not, oh, well, I'm Feeling sad, I have to take my medicine as a teenager. Oh, well, just don't take your medicine. What? I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to do that.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah, it's recommended. But no, really focusing on those things, right? And focusing on the voices that matter, focusing on the voices that matter the most, focusing on the people who know your healthcare situation the best. And also, this kind of gets into more personal growth and development, is also listen to people who see potential in you, even if you yourself don't see that potential in the moment.
That's right.
I've been there. I've had people in elementary, middle, high school, college, graduate school, and now do that. So to answer your question, as far as the steps that you take these steps. Number one, you recognize your zone of control and you control those things, and you do not focus on what you cannot control. Number two, you listen to the people who know your healthcare the best and you follow the advice that they give you, because that is going to ultimately help you get to that place medically, right, where you are able to be on the transplant list, where you are able to be successful before, during, and after surgery. Three, you really focus on what are you listening to? What are you allowing to flood your brain? Is it positive or is it negative? And finally, number four, are you listening to voices that tear you up and pull you down? They kind of, 3 and 4 kind of go hand in hand, but 4 is really more focused on looking long term of who you want to become as an individual. Because we can get a transplant, but I would argue that what's even more important, what's more important after we get the transplant is, yes, that we take care of that, right? That comes with a cost, and sometimes that's another life, and it should never be lost on you.
That's right.
And with that comes a great deal of responsibility, but also a great deal of opportunity. This is a whole nother life you have, right? So why not live that life to the fullest, and why not surround yourself with the right people to help you get to where you want to be long term, whether that be as an individual, career-wise, whatever it is. So I hope that answers your question.
Oh man.
It does. And I think that's what a lot of people need to hear, because I think sometimes people don't know who to ask or what to ask in order to be that advocate for themselves. So I think it's important for someone who has had success, not just receiving a transplant, but also educating others on and about transplant. It's good to hear from somebody, like you said. Selecting who you listen to is important, and giving you this platform gives you the opportunity to really be one of those credible people to listen to. So we appreciate that. Do you want to give some shout outs? I know we got a lot of people on our
man, let me tell you,
I see Anthony's in here.
Tons. Yeah,
my man Philip's out in California. Right. What's up, dude? Good to see you.
Yeah, so I want to give a shout out to everybody on LinkedIn and Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and our YouTube users. I want to give a shout out to Mr. Philip Jones. He gives a shout out. Scott Ruggins from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This is his first time on our show. My man, we want to thank you. And I got my main man Shane Sullivan in Northern California out of Nepros. He said, "Congratulations, Rich, on your new home." Scott also says, "Congratulations." Anthony says, "Thanks for everybody for tuning in." We got Faison Awan, and I hope I pronounced your name correctly. He is from the UK. He said, organ donation, he said that he's a recipient. He found a national curriculum here now for key stage 3 and 4. He said information for schools, staff, teachers, organ donation ambassadors are now available on the NHSBT website, which is the National Health Service Blood and Transplant. So we got a lot of people that's giving us a shout out. And Faison, maybe one of you could be a guest on our show as well. And we hope that you probably can connect with us all. So Wills, I mean, dude, you have an amazing story. You have an amazing outlook on a lot of things, as far as transplant goes. I'm glad that you was able to answer that question and then some. You said something very important as far as if I could sum it up, is be careful who's in your circle. being careful who is your circle. Keep all the negativity away. I always tell people my circle is as small as a mustard seed, and then some. Sometimes you have to keep it small. I'm a firm believer in how people say, keep your enemies closer, keep your friends closer, your enemies closer. I keep my enemies away. uh, I'm sorry, your Fez. His name is Fez. Sorry about that.
So haters are not welcome then.
Oh, sometimes I'm a firm believer in this. When people say, I don't have a problem with individuals, they have a problem with me. And I was like, and that's their problem. I hit it in a nutshell. So Wills, can you go into more detail whenever you received a liver transplant? I mean, whenever you how did it affect you whenever when you had that issue or that you needed one? I mean, if you will, all due respect. And how old were you? And tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So as far as my age, I received mine as a pediatric patient. So I was around the age of 4. I was about to turn 4 that next month. So I was about 3.5.
Wow.
Yeah. So very young. And so really the impact of the whole transplant process, I would argue, in that phase of my life was more felt on the side of my parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because here they have a healthy child,
Right.
that is healthy for a year or so. Then all of a sudden, all of these mysterious medical things start occurring.
Right.
I start getting sick. I'd get better, but I would never really fully recover.
Gotcha.
And so there would be these little bits and pieces throughout time in that first year that started leading our family pediatrician to think, okay, we think that there's something more to this. This isn't just another illness. And so I was referred to Children's in Atlanta, an incredible team. And they really got to work in figuring out, okay, what's going on? Is it liver related? Is it some other illness? So, I mean, they did tests for all sorts of stuff just to start ruling things out. And through that, it was ultimately determined I needed a transplant. And so as far as the impact, I can't imagine being a parent, and traveling from where we were living at the time to Atlanta. It's about an hour drive, doing that, taking a trip to Ohio,
Wow.
to taking a trip to Ohio up there to be evaluated, coming back, I would say the roller coaster of events, I think is the best way to say it. Because through that time, right, you're going to be highs where, hey, he's doing pretty good. He's going through these things, but I think we're going to make it. To the lows of actually hearing your child has organ failure. Hearing he's in liver failure. We're working him up for transplant to be put on the transplant list.
Wow.
So that I have no doubt in my mind that had an impact on them. Now, after I received my transplant and as I got older, I began to really feel the effects of, I say the weight, but in a good way, of knowing that I'm alive today because someone said yes to donation. Right.
Yeah.
And with that comes a great level, as I said before, a great level of responsibility, but also a great level of opportunity. And that while, yes, I've gone through medical challenges, with my transplant, a little bit post-transplant, that really the impact that it's had on me is that it's really put me in a very unique position to have a very, I would argue, unique outlook on the world.
I got you.
There's something that we all go through, right? Whether you're, no matter what organ you've received or whether you're waiting on an organ, whatever it might be, that, life hits you pretty quick. Yes. It's not like, oh, I can go home and, just, pretend this isn't happening. You can, I wouldn't recommend it. That's
Right.
that's denial, which that's okay. We all go through that, right? But staying in that is dangerous.
Yeah, it is.
And so, really focusing on to get to that is that, yes, I'm here because someone said yes to donation. Yes, I know someone had to die so I could live. So the impacts of it were challenging early on, right? As a child, how do you explain to a 5-year-old when he asks, "Hey, so where did my liver come from?"
Mm-hmm.
How do you explain to a 5-year-old child that they're alive today because someone else isn't?
Mm-hmm.
So again, getting back to the challenges of my parents. But really, for me, where it is right here and right now, with the impact, it's actually very positive. It's, yes, I've had challenges early on, but I'm over 20 years post transplant. So I've lived through a lot. I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of other friends of mine be less fortunate.
Oh,
I've
man.
seen the good, the bad, the ugly. I've stood at, hold on, 1, 2, 3, four of my friends.
Mm.
I have heard their names called because they are no longer living.
Oh my God. Rest up to them. Rest up to them. Man.
Two
Oh
of
my
them,
goodness.
before I turned 15,
Wow.
and an
Wow.
additional 2 after the fact.
Wow.
Well, and
Wow.
I think, to your point, that unfortunately is what happens with a lot of folks, right? I mean,
Yes,
and like I said earlier, a lot of that is not knowing is like probably the biggest challenge for most folks out there. Like, in the beginning, like especially in the kidney world, like I've spent 20 going on 27 years in the kidney world, and what I've seen is that when a new patient comes into, say, a dialysis scenario or a diagnosis, because a lot of times I didn't see them until they started dialysis, but they come in and they right away they're like, oh, it's okay, I'm just going to get a transplant, I won't be here long, and
Mm.
and totally oblivious to the fact that that is not a quick process, and that I don't know about in your part of the world, but here in California, it's a 10 to 12 year wait for a kidney. And a lot of times
Wow.
what people don't understand is, you think about density of population and the number of patients that need a kidney, and the one thing that we see happen to patients is the longer they spend on dialysis, the worse their condition gets, the less likely they are to be qualified for that transplant. So then the conversation becomes, how do I address that particular piece of it? And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
the tough conversation, is like, what can you do? What can you do to give yourself the best chance possible? Right. And I think all of those points that you made are very important for people to hear, especially the piece about listening to the people who know about your disease, right?
yes,
Those are the people, in my view, that give you the best recommendations. And if you follow those recommendations, you're giving yourself the best odds out there. Would you agree with
Mm-hmm.
that?
absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, D, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that because Mr. Reed and I talk about this all the time. We don't want we don't want unqualified people to talk about qualified things, and that happens a whole lot. And that's something, because like Wills, like you said earlier, you definitely want someone who has purpose with passion. You want that
Yes,
purpose first. And I think all three of us can agree that we all have a purpose because we all have a background, as far as renal disease and as you Will's liver disease as well. And so yeah, I mean, I think that's phenomenal, Wills. I think that is great. To answer your question, Richard, you got to get those individuals who, as I would like to say, you're beyond it's beyond expertise. Beyond expertise is living that life, or having someone close to you that lives that life. Prime example. I don't consider myself an expert as far as renal disease, but I can tell you this: I'm the expert about my life and what I've experienced in it. I have a PhD in my life experiences and my life lessons, and and Rich, you can agree. Both of us have family members that have suffered from renal disease.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I consider us. We did have a purpose. We talk about that. And so Wills, you fall in those same category as well. So I totally agree with all of that. And I would like to say to everyone out there on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube, keep the comments coming in. If we can't see your comments, hey, we're so sorry to hear that. Fez said he loved the experience. It's so powerful. Fez said that, yep, I was 3 of so. I totally get the strain can be on parents, guardians, caregivers, and even siblings. So yeah, man, Fez that has a wonderful story as well.
Definitely.
I agree.
And and I would like to say too that, there's a lot of hope out there for people. I mean, I know one of the things that I've learned and I've heard is that I get to meet a lot of, powerful people throughout the work that I do. And I come across patients all the time who find that positivity. And I know you said that positivity is important, and heck, surrounding yourself with that positivity is important. What did that look like for you? Like, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about that, Wills, what did that look like for you in your situation? Who were your people that kept up that positivity in your life?
Excellent question. So for me, the people that I would say spoke life into me were a couple people. Number one, my parents. I was very blessed in that regard, as well as teachers and tutors. I've had coaches. I was the one in middle and high school that thought it was a good idea to run. Don't ask me why. As an older, I couldn't tell you, but I ran cross country. Yes, I know. Yep. Fun. Yeah. Hey, so what you put in is what you get out, man.
That's right.
Yeah. And so, I ran cross country. I played sports. I did a lot of things outside of school. I was involved in a scout troop back in my hometown in Athens. I finished my Eagle Scout. So, I had my friends and the people in that community that I had of my scout troop speak life into me. I had my medical team. Oh my gosh. Can we not, how can we even, we'd be remiss not to even say that,
Right.
Yes, you have the people in school, whether they be teachers, mentors, coaches, people in your extracurricular activities, sports, scouting, whatever it is. And then, you also have your medical team. I absolutely loved my team, still love them. They're great. I never wanted to leave the pediatric world, but they made me go anyway. Which I get it. There comes a time to move on, but I still walk around the adult hospitals out here and everywhere else, and I look around and I'm like, fish tank needs to go there. CD needs to be better over here. If we could get some Disney characters, that'd be great.
Interior decorator.
Living here in Orlando, in the surrounding areas, Disney obviously has a very big hold down here. So they're living, you see them more often.
Yeah.
But seriously, hearing from them, being able to have your physician stare you in the eyes and say, looking pretty good. What's going on? And to be able to have those conversations that need to be had, that's really what it came down to, was each of those individuals, like I said, regardless of what level they were at, help do that with my medical team. They helped me, go through the rough times. They helped me navigate various medical complications after transplant. They also helped, speak life into me and encourage me to continuously take care of my organ and help me understand what that looked like in application, because it's easy to give someone information. It's a whole lot harder to help them understand how that applies to their own life and the steps they should take to achieve that. It's very different.
That's right.
They helped me do that. So they spoke life into me, not only in encouraging me, but also helping me ultimately live a fulfilling life post-transplant. So all of those people, and finally, my faith community. I had some excellent small group leaders. I had some excellent pastors and other folks, help speak life into me, because the way I view health is that if you got to have these 3 elements. You got to have physical health,
Mm-hmm.
you gotta have emotional health, and you got to have spiritual health. And if you don't have
Mm-hmm.
those three things, you you must have those three elements in order to have overall health and well-being as we define it. What that looks like for you, that's up to you to determine. Um, but for me, it was those three things. So I had physical health. The folks speaking life into me, my coaches.
Right.
I would say academic well-being and everything else. It all fed into one. So really, yeah, those folks out there, and they know who they are. Um,
Right.
who really got a hold of me and said, "Hey, kid, it's going to be all right." One of them
Right.
in particular that I feel like does need to be named, a couple. Number one, outside of my family, Edward Drake with the Why Not Foundation,
Mm-hmm.
really helped speak life into me in a very, um, I would say, watershed moment of my life, a very important timing in my life where I really needed that. And it
Right.
is and it is because of him choosing to speak life and encourage me that I am where I am today, where
Wow.
I am doing work
Awesome.
with kidney trails. Before I ever met Edward, I had zero interest
Really?
in even pursuing this as an option,
Wow.
excuse me, as an opportunity. I had an entirely different view of what I wanted my life to be.
Mm.
When I found out that I could not have that life and pursue that as the career that I wanted,
Right.
when I found that out, I was devastated. But at the same time,
Mm.
when Edward came along, when other mentors of mine came along, family, friends, coaches, everyone came around me, and I was able to surround myself with that support. I was able to
Right.
see that while in my view in the moment, I was viewing myself as missing out on an opportunity
Mm.
through those groups of people speaking life into me. I realized that while one door might have been closed, a million had been blasted wide open. And
There you go.
it was up to me to rely on those people and take what I had learned from those folks speaking life into me into that next step of my life, into what I
Mm-hmm.
chose. Many of them I still keep in contact with today, lots of them, lots of
Wow.
friends, lots of mentors. The way I view things is that, you know, I have career mentors, I have life mentors, I have
Mm.
mentors in just about every department, you know,
Mm.
but
I think I do too.
I'm blessed in that regard, and so that's really who spoke life into me. And ultimately, what I
Mm.
think is important is that yes, I have people speaking life into me, but also that I turn around and speak life into others, because that's
Mm.
really what it's about, right? It's
Pay
really
it
about,
forward. Pay it
yes,
forward.
yeah, you got to pay it forward, because if the way I view it, it's my duty to do it, and quite frankly, it's a lot of fun. It's a whole lot of fun to be able to know that what you're doing, you might not see the reward tomorrow.
Right.
Right.
Well, and
Individually, speaking of it, you
it's
might not see results tomorrow, but down the road, a year from now, whenever that is, that will come back, and then you'll be able to sit back and be like, "Yep, saw that coming."
well, and it isn't it funny how like you may have your own agenda, but it always works out for the way it should, right? Things always
Mhm.
work out the way that they should,
True.
especially when you're open to following opportunities rather than just being down about things that don't work out, right? Like when something doesn't
Right.
work out, there's usually a lesson in there, and there's usually another opportunity, maybe even several opportunities that follow it. So to hear
That's
you
right.
talk about that, saying, hey, what I wanted didn't work out, but it blew open a million other opportunities for me, that things that I would love to do that I really didn't see. So
Mm.
it's great that that you were able to see that and be mindful enough to find those openings and go through them. I do. You said you like sports. I coached football for a lot of years, and and have been involved in that. And one thing we always used to tell our running backs is, when you see a hole, run through it. Right? It doesn't matter what the play call was. If you see a hole, you run through it. And that's kind of something that I think a lot of people can relate to. It's like you never know where that opportunity is going to come from. So thank you for that. Now I do have another question for you, as we're getting closer, to the end here. But what's next for Will's Porter? What's next on your agenda?
Well, what's next is it's 3:50, so dinner's going to be in a couple hours. No, seriously though, what's next? Oh gosh, what's not next? Honestly, like seriously, I feel like the question should better be posed to Dwelyn and the rest of the Kenny Trails team of what all craziness are we getting into now?
Yeah.
Like what stuff did we go to bed with last night? We're like, yeah, we'll do that eventually. And now we're waking up like, oh, that eventually is now. Oh, okay, yeah, that works. So whether it be continuing to write and do things that we've always done, to even expanding our horizons on new endeavors, so to speak. I know that we've Kenny Trails announced the stuff going on with I believe it was Arizona State, I think. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And that was really cool, to be a part of that, and to know that the work that I am doing and that Kidney Trails by extension at large is doing, it's making an impact in more than one way. This isn't just another platform. This isn't just another blog post. This isn't just something else. This is something that has the potential to impact many people for many years to come. So that's been really cool. So, that's going to obviously continue as that continues. Again, I leave that up to whatever it might be, leave that up to everyone else who makes those decisions. At the end of the day, I'm just blessed and thankful that I get to play a part, as far as for me personally, I got a lot of great things going on with Kenny Trails that I'm doing. Right now I'm kind of volunteering my time and knowledge, so to speak, to help Anthony and Kenny Trails kind of take some steps to where they want to be. So that's been really cool. And so that's been really cool to be able to do that. And also something else that's really big that's going on that will continue to occur is the current blog / other whatever we want to call it now series that's not Kenny Trails, with Kenny Trails. That is the podcast that I do. That's going to continue. That is now the Extraordinary podcast, working on getting some really unique and hard-hitting interviews coming up very soon. So keep an eye out for that. Got some really powerful stories and some very unique, and to use the word extraordinary, conversations. And something else going on is the continuation of COVID Chronicles. COVID Chronicles is a small little blog series that I had an idea of that completely blew into something that I never thought it would become. And yes, and that is what ultimately led kind of us through this whole rabbit trail with, ASU and everything else going on. So be looking for, there's actually there's a new post out right now that I recently published called COVID Chronicles Interlude. It's kind of this in between, right? We've put it out there. We've talked about some things with COVID Chronicles, and we're kind of at this important moment in this series where, yes, we've talked about other things, but now we're turning a page. An interlude, we're turning a page. We're continuing things, and it's going to be awesome. Again, very, very humbled, honored, and blessed to be able to do what I'm doing with y'all, with Kidney Trails. So yeah, keep an eye out for the podcasts coming out. Extraordinary Pod, so to speak. That's been really fun. Keep an eye out for that, but also keep an eye out for the other things going on with Kidney Trails. We got authors, we got guest authors, we got folks doing tons of other things
Right.
So pay attention to that. Pay attention to the website, to LinkedIn, all these other platforms that we got with Kidney Trails. Because we're going to be putting out some. At least for me, I can speak for me. There's going to be some really heavy hitting content coming with this podcast, and also with COVID Chronicles. This one is going to be. I think the next thing coming out. I'll give a little bit of a teaser. It's kind of a final poem, a final bow.
Yeah.
On top of this, where we have turned a page, and we are now about to continue to go into a new era of unexplored territories. Right? We are going into the unknown, but in that, we are also leaving in the rearview mirror the past that we have come through with COVID. Yes, we are still dealing with it. We are still living with it. It is still very much a real thing.
That's right.
Yeah, D sounds like the
Captain time has come to rise up.
Yeah,
That's
right.
about
the
I would say
Kirk. He's got Captain Kirk under his name now. Captain Kirk of the COVID Chronicles.
Oh yeah, Wills, man, you said more than a mouthful that I think my mouth is full and is leaking out. So you say extraordinary, you definitely make an impact. So I always say do the extraordinary, ordinary thing.
Yep.
Man, we can go. I wish we had another hour, but we don't. But because we have a lot to talk about. We may do a part two. Who knows? Wills. So we got about 4 more minutes. And I apologize. I was gonna get my Georgia Bulldogs hat, but I'm wearing the Oakland A's hat. My apologies, because I know how you feel about the Georgia Bulldogs, But I do have the Atlanta Braves hat. That's
the national championship scarf is actually in the background on.
Oh, we see it. We see it.
Yeah, just figured I'd just the subtlety. Just the subtle things.
Oh, we see it. So I'll tell you what, gentlemen. So when we wrap this up, so Wills, is there a if you can tell the world something about you, is there a saying that you live by, a quote that's famous quote? Because I'm all about quotes. As I said on the show before, my favorite book is African American Quotations, and it's about 1,000-something pages that have different quotations. So, and even Rich, you too as well. Is there anything that you live by on a day-to-day basis that keeps you motivated? A special song or something that you want the world to know that keep everybody motivated? Because it seems to me, Wills, you're the type of individual, you got Impact America, impact, you like to make an impact. So what is the saying or quote that you may live by that you want the world to know?
So it's not necessarily impact related,
Right.
but it is related to the overall experience of life, really, but also more specifically for today, kidney disease and transplant. And that is this. It's very simple. Mm-hmm. Don't be a victim. Don't be a victim. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that throughout our lives, like I said at the beginning, there are going to be events that we cannot control.
Right.
And when those occur to us, we have a decision. We can either sit back and sit in that uneasiness and we can feed into it. Right. We can be victims of the circumstance. Or we can recognize what we can control and take active steps in controlling that and allowing everything else to play out. So don't be a victim. Instead, be a victor. Be victorious over the circumstances that, by all accounts, you should be a victim of.
Accountability.
Sure. And so that's what I would say. Don't view yourself as a victim. View yourself as a victor. And if you don't, and if you don't feel like that you're quite there yet, that's okay. Everyone's on their own journey of that. But at the end of the day, it's about making sure that you're taking those steps in that journey to make sure that one day you can look back on your past experiences, kidney disease, transplant, whatever it is, and say, yeah, I just came through that. What's next? Throw it at me. Let's go. Put on that battle helmet, pick up your sword and shield, and charge head on into the unknown territories, because you will conquer them. The question isn't if, the question is when. And when you do, you will be better off for it. You will be a better person. And along the way, you will develop character and you will become, I would argue, the best version of yourself. So that's what I would say.
Woo! Rich, what you think about that, brother? Woo!
I'd wrap that up with mine is real short and sweet. Well done is better than well said, right? That's it.
Wow.
You're living it. You're
Truth.
living it. You're doing it.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Gentlemen, I love it. Me, and I close this out, well, Fez says that, that don't kill me, can only make me stronger by Kanye West. I hear that, Fez. I hear that. That's very, very true. I remember Anthony Reed asked me a question a year ago about, if there's like a special quote for me. And I actually got it tattooed on my hand. I'm a big Star Wars animated series fans. And on my hand, my right hand, I have that without honor, victory is hollow. That's from one of the episodes in the Star Wars Clone Wars. And, to me, what that meant is, you can have victory, but if you have no honor in it, the victory means nothing. And I try my best to live by that. I try to remind myself that day in and day out. So, Wills, I want to thank you for that, man. Go Georgia Bulldogs. Man, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, my LinkedIn family, my Facebook users, my YouTube users, people on Twitch and on Twitter. We are done for today for the Rich and Dwelyn show on this wonderful Sunday. We want to say happy birthday to Mr. Reed, which was yesterday. Happy birthday to him. 21 looks good on you, brother. 21 looks good on you. So, gentlemen, I want to close this out to everyone out there. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. You could have been anywhere in the world today, but you chose to be here with us. And we want to thank you. God bless, stay strong, and we are out. Thank you so much.